All right, everybody, we are adding in messages to our project today. This is not like an amazing example, but it'll be basically you'll see what it is. We want to have words like level one appear in our game. I'm having them kind of move down the screen at the moment, and we can get these kind of the time at the right moment using our launcher to sort of launch messages, just the same way we launch spaceships. That way we can kind of have a synchronized, there we go, incoming gunships. We can kind of synchronize our messages with the level and gameplay within. And then alternatively than the moving, this is just something I was goofing around with, we can just make it go transparent so they can kind of fade out. This is a classic thing in this type of games where, maybe you blow up an enemy and it tells you a little message like, plus 10 points or something, and you can make that sort of appear and then disappear within the collision code of your spaceship, or the enemies, I should say. So, how does this work? Here's our message class. As we do this, I really want you to think about how message is actually really just a specialized version of our particles. It's really, really similar. The only thing is it contains text, but otherwise it's very similar to particles and other things. And it's with this pattern that you're going to be able to innovate and add things like power-ups or other things that spaceships can drop, or launchers can drop. It's really up to you. So here's class message. It extends game object. It's just a game object, even though it's words. And it's got an alpha, so it can go transparent. It's got size, so that we can adjust the size of the text, make smaller, big text, and so on. And it has a message. This is a string. Strings store text and sentences and just sequences of characters. We have a constructor that's kind of like our particle class. We're going to send it some words, x and y position, and a size. And the constructor will take care of everything else. Don't forget to set alive to true. And also note, like, alpha is 1000, which we know is well beyond the bounds of what alpha is supposed to be. 255 is the max. But if we set it above, as we count down, it'll just be kind of solid for longer. If I make this 255 and I run it, you will see like it fades away right away, and it's not very solid for long. So we can adjust this to be 1000 or whatever number you want, so that it sticks around. I'll leave it there. All right, so that's the story, and then the show function. Basically, we're going to use fill to color it, and feel free to add in more details like color for this that you might store as an instance variable. Text size is how we adjust the size, and we use the size variable to make it the appropriate size. And then we can use the text function to draw our message on the screen at x and y. Very important to note, and I hope everyone watches this video sequentially so they can see that. You should probably anyways, add a text align center to your setup function. Text align center is kind of like rect mode center, but for text. So that's pretty good. So that's the story. Also, its act, basically it's just going to decrease its alpha, or you can make it increase its y. You can do whatever you really want with the message to make it kind of transition from on screen to off screen, and then it reaches some condition where we will remove it so that it's not there forever. In this case, if it becomes invisible, the transparency becomes full, 100% transparency. We set alive to false, and it goes away. Because when alive is set to false, that's what happens. So the story with the messages is really a quaint one, but I'll also just show where we're adding them. So for example, level 1 appears, and you've seen incoming gunships appear, and so on. So what's the story behind where they're being created and added? Right now, that's in the game object. In the launcher class. So in addition to launching enemies, our launcher can launch text, so that it can show, whatever information we want to include in our level. So here's our launcher. This is probably all fairly familiar, but hey, check it out. I'm not using less than. I'm using exact times. So when timer is exactly 1, because it starts roughly, it starts at 0 technically, but we immediately increase by 1. So this is right at the beginning. I don't need the print line anymore, but we add that message. We add level 1. So this is how we make a message. And I say, I put it at the center of the screen. And I say that its size should be, I can't scroll over. Trying to master the Macintosh trackpad shouldn't be so hard. It should be easy. But here we go. We say, hey, this is size 100, and then later on I have size 50, just as an example. So this is great. This launcher will allow us to sort of introduce levels or say, warning, boss detected. This /n, by the way, this is interpreted as a new line character. So that's why incoming and gunships are on two separate levels. So if you put a /n, it's like pressing enter in the middle of a string. So try that out and see what happens. Last but not least, I wanted to mention how you can have a enemy drop a piece of text. And I think this will be not quite the way I want it to look. I'll have to fine tune it. But if you wanted to say like, plus 10 points appear when a enemy explodes or something like that, then, you already have that possible for you. It's just in your isAlive function. So right now we add particles, but maybe you want to have something else add instead. So instead of adding particles for an explosion, I can add text. I can say objects.add new message. And it could say, whatever you want it to say. I believe it's the first thing is text, so I could say ow. And then it could vanish, and we can say XY is the XY of the enemy that's dying, so that the text lines up with that. And then the size. So, whatever size you think is appropriate for this. I'll make it 20. I don't know, maybe 30. All right, so let's run that and see. So this is in the enemy. Now it's isAlive, makes it explode with text instead. And, I guess there is a problem with that. I guess I'm missing a parenthesis. Try again. Excuse me. So now when I kill enemies, they'll leave a message behind. Ow, 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 ow. And they're not fading away very quickly. You can see they're slowly starting to fade away. So, I think it might be a good idea to, for your message class, make the initial alpha also something you send as a parameter, because then you can set it. I'll just set it to 255 for this particular purpose. I think it looks a lot better if they're vanishing when you kill them. So let's see. Oh, and then they just kind of go away. Maybe going away a little bit faster. This could be, plus 10 points or whatever information you want. Some ways, I think the y coordinate deserves to also decrease as well. This, of course, affects all the messages. So if you want messages to behave differently, you can either just make different message classes, or you can make it so that you just have more parameters. So there's like if statements that you can use to determine how they're going to work. There we go. Now they're like saying "ow" and it's going away, and I think that's pretty fun. So hope you can make use of this. And ultimately, note how messages and particles, I can't find that tab, particles are basically exactly the same, other than some of the data that they store, how we interact with them, how we make them, how we, create effects with them is, kind of all related to each other. And you can add on cool things as well to make that, similar classes that follow these patterns. All right, thanks everybody.